move forward. Everybody, come on. Hi, Chantel. Yeah, this is the good.
No, it is like church. You know
Yeah.
what it is. You got to show
Yeah,
your
you can come up close. Bonnie, you can come back close. I know that's your regular seat. You can come on up.
Can we pass the tray?
Yeah, we're gonna pass the tray to everybody. I'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting for Tuesday, August 12th. And this is our first meeting in our new headquarters. And we welcome all of you.
Can't hear?
Can you not hear?
You turn the green button.
I got the green button on.
Oh, it's got to be closer.
Got to be closer?
There you go.
Okay, in committee room, it was really loud. Okay, welcome all of you, and we are so pleased to be here in our new building, and we're so pleased to see all of you. You know, sometimes you have a new location, and you just feel better about yourself, and everybody looks great, so welcome. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Brady. Here. Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones. Here. Mr. Hairston.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
And Ms. Conley. There is a quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For our moment of silent meditation this evening, I'd like us all to reflect on the life of Robin Williams, who we tragically lost today, and all those persons who suffer from depression and substance abuse. Moving on to item 5, public comment related to the agenda. I believe there is someone signed in.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have two speakers this evening. Mary Ann Barnes. Please step up to the podium, turn the mic on, state your name for the record.
And you have 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Barnes. I am the current president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. We are here today. There are several of us here today who want to urge you to your support for 2 proposed charter amendments now before council. One to protect voting rights, and a second to make permanent the independent office of the Inspector General. These amendments address core issues that are near and dear to the mission of the League of Women Voters, and that is voter participation and good government. I will speak to the Inspector General amendment first. Rather than repeat policy points League has made before, we would like to draw your attention to the fact that 5 years ago in all 59 Cuyahoga County municipalities, voters supported a new county government to end the insider patronage way of doing county business, which had led to a good deal of waste and corruption. A code of ethics and enforcement of this code by an inspector general is an essential tool to provide voters the clean, efficient county government they deserve. Each of you expresses support for the office of the Inspector General, but some of you balk at the opportunity to make this independent ethics enforcement office permanent by guaranteeing the Inspector General's status as a mandated charter office. Please consider what message your no vote on this amendment would send to citizens who support continuing county government reform. Each of you must assure them and us that recent progress in cleaning up county government will go forward into the future by guaranteeing continued enforcement of the Code of Ethics through an independent Inspector General. We urge you to vote yes on this proposal. Second, the proposed voting rights amendment should be approved in its entirety simply because it is the right thing to do. If home rule powers are later judged to be insufficient to overrule the Secretary of State, at least our county will have tried, and in doing so will have made a significant statement about the importance of both protecting and promoting the vote for all of Cuyahoga County's citizens. Your vote on these amendments will send a message to voters about your values regarding good government and basic rights. And League urges you to vote yes by putting both of these charter amendments before the voter. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak.
Right, thank you. And our next speaker?
Yes, that would be Tony Sharaba. He's with the Office of Child Support Services.
The item that Mr. Sharaba is going to speak on is actually on page 4 on the agenda, and I thought it would be better just to have him come in before the meeting, sort of anticipatory, to give an explanation about Child Support Awareness Month. So, Mr. Sharaba.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Tony Sharaba. I'm the Deputy Director with the Office of Child Support, and I am here to primarily thank you on behalf of our agency for recognizing Child Support Awareness Month, which is August across the state of Ohio. So many of the child support agencies have various functions to support and recognize the work on behalf of the parents, our collaborative partners, fellow agencies, law enforcement, our courts, and all our collaborative partners in working to recognize all those that participate in making the child support program a success. Some of the activities that we have during Child Support Awareness Month include, we have a street fest that we've already had on the first Monday of this month. We have several different activities that go on through the course of the month, all in support of the child support program. We have legal aid clinics. We have an employer workshop. We're going to have, and several activities that have support the parents coming in improving with their, working with them to improve on their child support. So on behalf of our director, David Merriman, our executive director, the Office of Child Support, Deborah Watkins, myself, and my peers, I want to thank you for taking the time to recognize our agency during this very important month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Has anyone else signed in?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Item 6, approval of the minutes. The minutes of the Committee of the Whole for July 17th, the special meeting for July 17th, the Committee of the Whole for July 21st, the Committee of the Whole for July 22nd, and the regular meeting of July 22nd are all in your packets. If you've had an opportunity to review those minutes, we can entertain a motion to adopt them as circulated.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Mr. Greenspan. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. We have a special announcement this evening. Our staff person, Trevor McAleer, and his wife Sarah had baby number 3. The McAleer family has grown since county council has started when they were childless when we had our first meeting, and now they're having baby number 3, Emma Kathleen McAleer, who was born this morning at 11:18, weighing 8 pounds and 9 ounces. She was 20 inches and 20 1/4 inches long. So we'd like to congratulate Trevor and Sarah, and she joins her sisters, Catherine and Grace. So congratulations to the McAleer family. Parking passes are available with Ms. Schmatzer over here at the side. So anyone that comes in that needs a validated parking pass, we can provide that. And yesterday morning was the first morning that all of our employees were here in the building. And so County Council hosted a coffee and donut session for all those coming into the building. And we met lots of employees, and we guaranteed they were all calorie-free. We had chocolate donuts and bacon and maple donuts. And I got to give a plug to the company. It's called Spud Nuts from Berea, and they were wonderful. So everybody's got to walk home or something to burn off the calories. But it was really nice. It was good to see all the employees. So we sort of kicked off the building. So that concludes my comments. And Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much. Well, mine sounds loud. I don't know if yours sounds loud. Mine sounds loud to me. I wanted to just mention about an event that we had yesterday where we convened a number of stakeholders and policyholders regarding the situation with water quality, which has been of such a concern and has actually drawn nationwide attention because of the 400,000 or so residents in the Toledo area who were denied safe drinking water recently. And we thought that it made sense to bring local stakeholders together to really start to evaluate this. I would say I have to give particular credit and praise to Jennifer Schofield, who now operates as our Director of Regional Collaboration, because it was almost exactly 1 year ago that we launched what we call Lake Stat, which is an extension of the county stat process to, for the first time really, to external or environmental questions or concerns. Because one of the needs that we identified was that we really needed to start measuring the health of Lake Erie as something that we're tracking in some kind of disciplined and data-driven way, which, as much as we talk about the lake and how important it is and what a great natural resource it is, we rarely say, well, exactly how is the lake actually doing on a number of different performance measures. So we started that process a year ago, and I'm glad we did, because we had already convened a lot of these stakeholders to have this conversation. What we had yesterday was we brought some of these parties together to really talk about several things. First, what happened in the Toledo area, which is the western basin of the Lake Erie water resource, and does it have any applicability to the water basin that we're in? And then secondly, what is contributing to the contamination? And how are we dealing with contamination once it gets into our water system? So we ended up bringing together in kind of a public forum individuals from Heidelberg, Kent State, the Regional Sewer District, the Cleveland Water Department, a nonprofit called the Water Alliance, the County Department of Health, and others. And we got an update in a briefing about what we could do, and then we followed that all up with our own folks from our emergency management operations to talk about, if we had the same situation that they had in Toledo, how would we react to it? And I would just quickly divide it into 3 categories. First of all, we had discussions about what contributes to the contamination in the first place with phosphorus. We don't have the exact same factors that Western Ohio does, because we don't have the amount of agricultural runoff, but we still have sources of phosphorus, particularly, and this is something that the council is going to be, and the next executive is going to be dealing with, policies and procedures of the U.S. Department of the Army Corps of Engineers. What they do with dredging material affects water quality in this area. We've had discussions about that, but we need to be more public about it. If they take dredgings from the Cuyahoga River or other bodies of water around here and dump them out into Lake Erie, especially if it's near intake points, that is going to be an issue with water quality and water contamination. And we have to push very hard as a county and collaboratively to make sure that those are put into what are called CSDs, which are contained facilities, which actually has a lot of other spin-off benefit if we do that. So in terms of our own sources of contamination, that's a big source. The other is any contamination that comes out of our water treatment plants. We heard from the Cleveland Water Department about how they're dealing with that, but it would be a foolish policy to only deal with the contamination once it occurs. So we need to look at what are the root causes, then how do we deal with it once it's into our water system. And then the third thing, which Norberto Colon went over, is if we have a circumstance like this, are we going to be ready to respond to it if we have a Toledo-like situation? On August the 19th, we're having what we call a tabletop exercise, and that's bringing all the partners together saying, how would we deal with distribution of water? How would we deal with our local health institutions? How would we deal with this as a public health crisis if it ever came to that? So we're happy to provide council with information about that August 19th event. We want to make sure that those things don't happen. We want to make sure that the multi-billion-dollar economic impact, positive economic impact of Lake Erie is not affected. We want to make sure that people have access to clean and safe drinking water. And then, God forbid, if we do have a situation, despite all those precautions, we want to be ready to deal with it. And I want to assure the council and the public that our emergency management folks are taking that very, very seriously and will be practicing their response on August the 19th. We are also going to have a sequel, which will probably not be so much in the realm of a public process, but we will be, again, we actually heard from those partners that they wanted to get back together again in the near future. If council would like to send a representative, we're certainly open to that, and we will advise you of when and if that occurs in the near future. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Item 9, legislation introduced by council, a consideration of resolutions of council for third reading adoptions, and these are going to be our charter amendment items. So, Madam Clerk, if you'd like to read the first item.
Resolution number 2014-0160, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.01 and Article 3, Section 3.03 of the Charter of Cuyahoga County, modifying the residency requirements for the offices of County Executive and County Council, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Germana. Now, the item as it is proposed currently is on page 50, and I understand that Mr. Schron has a amendment. So would you like to speak to that, Mr. Schron?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I believe that the spirit of what we're trying to do is to put both the county executive and the county council on a similar plane as far as having a residency requirement. But I also believe that the spirit of that is to have each individual run for either of those positions be here for 2 years. And so what I'm suggesting here is that because the way it's written right now, that 2-year period moves on the calendar depending on when voting takes place, based on when you have to file, based on whether it's a May election or whether it's a March primary. And so that filing deadline moves. What I'm suggesting is to simplify the process to say that you must be a resident in your position for 2 years prior to taking office. It will never change. It will always be fixed, and it will still give that 2 years. And I believe that no one's going to move in to a county council or a county executive seat on December 31st just so they can get right under the wire. So let's assume that normal moving and things like that, the average probably is going to be as a minimum of 2+ years. And what it does is just simplifies it, says that when you raise your hand to be sworn in on January 1st, you must have been either in that council district or the county itself for 2 years prior to that. And this way, it becomes very easy. So that is my amendment, Madam President.
So as it reads now, it would say, shall be a resident of his or her district at least 30 days immediately to the filing? Is that?
That's what it reads right now. Now, what it will read is on the separate sheet here. The proposed substitute would be 2 years residency requirement for both offices prior to assuming the office.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Miller.
just for clarification, this requirement does not relate to how long you have to be a resident of your district. You only have to be a resident of your district at the time you file. It relates for both offices as to how long you have to be a resident of the county.
You must be a county resident for 2 years prior to taking office.
And I would add that I think this amendment, the basic charter proposal works fine either way, but Councilman Schwan's amendment is simple and fair, and I do support it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Ms. Conwell?
So I understand I just need some clarification. So, and I think me and Purnell feels the same way. So with you being a resident of the county for 2 years, that's understandable. In our rules, I believe it says that if someone in Westlake wants to run for District 7, they have to be within my district within 30 days. Should we put that language in as well, just so it can be clear, or?
Yeah, Madam President, the charter currently reads 30 days.
Right. You would not need to change that. That 30 days, I think, it would stay in operation. All this is saying is that we're going to put them both on the same consistent track that says 2 years prior to raising your hand in to take the office.
Okay.
Currently, we have no requirements
Right.
for residency of the county executive. Currently, we have a very flexible, unfixed date for when you run as a county council person. And what this does is it fixes the date, makes it very easy for everybody to understand, puts it in concert with, like our U.S. Constitution uses a fixed date, why we should not also be using a fixed date that doesn't move around depending on when primaries are.
Madam President? The clarity that I need is, obviously, as the county executive, you have to live within the county for 2 years, the way it's written, before the filing deadline, to run for a countywide office. But it appears, what I'm hearing is that for someone to run within a county district, one of our 11 districts, they don't have to live within the district for 2 years.
No,
That parallel is not there as it is with the county, as with the county executive's position.
No,
Am
but you're
I hearing that correctly?
That's correct, but you are still required to be the 30 days that we have currently in the charter right in place.
You know,
That
ladies and
didn't
gentlemen,
That
this
didn't
is
change.
really an important issue, and I was told that we could, actually, we have time to pass this to the next meeting. So
Can we do that?
I would be inclined so that everybody have a full opportunity, because these are too important to vote on at the last minute, just kind of making a decision. Mr.
Pass it
Brady,
to
do you want to
the
be heard on
next
that?
Just one more point, and that I'm not sure it applies, but I think it might, and that's that, how does this work at a time when the districts have been redistricted? I mean, how have we taken into account the fact that the district lines, change once a decade?
This, go to the law director, but it should not change that at all, I would not think. No
Well-
different than what we currently have. The 2 years is a requirement to live in the county,
Right.
and
but
it just says, when are we going to start measuring that 2-year period of time?
Right, but okay, I see. So it doesn't apply, since it doesn't apply to the districts.
Yeah,
then
it's,
it wouldn't apply to redistricting.
exactly. And so all it says is, let's put them both in the same parallel, and let's just make it easy for the voters to establish when this 2 years begin.
Right, well, I would agree that we need further discussion.
Madam President,
Yeah.
just wondering about, so why can't just say, you know, it still keeps the 2-year factor in, but why couldn't we just say 2 years countywide, but 2 years in the district that you want to run in? I mean, it's just a
I would not,
formality.
I wouldn't have any problem with adding that to this. All I was, again, all I'm trying to do is make it easy to measure it. So if you want to say 2 years for the district and 2 years for the county executive, both being the date from the date you raise your hand and take office, that should be very easy to measure.
I'm in agreement for that, because just like for the same premise that you wanted the county exec to be able to know what was going on, living here, experiencing county life, you want the same for your residents, representative of their district. So I'd be inclined to vote for that if that was added.
That becomes an issue is when you start to redistrict, as was pointed out, your district line would have changed, but for no change whatsoever in where you lived. That's why I think the charter was written with the 30 days in there, and I think that's was in anticipation that boundaries are going to change, that the population is going to change, and we've already seen in the first in our first term that we did have a swing in districts.
Mr. Miller?
Somebody could easily live just outside of a district boundary and still be very familiar with the territory. I would not recommend that we should mess with the current charter provision that we've had since the beginning that says that you have to be a resident of the district that you're running in 30 days before you file. I think to make that a 2-year requirement would be not fair to people who live in and around the district and know the territory. And so I think we should make a decision as to whether someone has to be a resident of the county for 2 years before they take office or for 2 years before they file. But I don't think we should get into how long you have to live in the district. Thank you.
What happens to the people like to live in Pepper Pike that got added to my district? You know, where can they run? Because they were in another district, they were in Mr. Schron's district, and now they're in my district. So I'm going to exercise the prerogative of the chair, and I'm getting agreement from Mr. Schron. I think we're going to clean up the wording of this, and everybody can have an opportunity to, read it over and make sure that they're satisfied, because this is too important just to, make kind of a last-minute decision. So we do have, I was told by the law department that we do have until the next meeting. So let's pass this to the next meeting, which is August 26th, okay? All right, next item.
Madam Chair, are your first and second withdrawing their motions?
Okay, withdraw?
Yes.
Mr. Jimena? Yes, okay, thank you.
Resolution number 2014-0161, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 5, Section 5.01, Appointment and Confirmation of Officers, and Section 5.08, Sheriff, Powers, Duties, and Qualifications, establishing the term of appointment and process for removal of the sheriff, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Ms. Conwell. And this item appears on page 56.
Madam
Is there
President.
discussion? Mr. Greenspan?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I brought this item forward to present before the electorate to fundamentally clarify two main items that's currently within the already charter mandated sheriff's position. Number one is on page, as Madam President said, it starts on 56 on to page 57, where it talks about the item 3, the term of the sheriff. This is new. This would basically provide a 4-year term. The term would be staggered to that of the executive, so that the sheriff's term would start 1 year after the term of any executive. And the second primary provision in this refers to the removal of the sheriff, would be that of, as was amended at our last committee of the whole meeting, to be a recommendation from the executive and a confirmation or approval of 6 members of council. Previously, it was 8. Those are the two primary provisions within this, although there are some other others, those are the primary talking points of this proposal, and I urge support.
Madam Chair.
Miller?
Our charter is built around a unified approach rather than having separate silos. This amendment would weaken our ability to save money through county-wide approaches to IT and personnel, and would create an unclear relationship between the executive and the sheriff. It would not be clear to what extent the sheriff is under the executive. The sheriff's office is working well as currently designed, and there is no urgent need to make a change. So I recommend against this amendment.
All right, anyone else want to be heard? Okay, we're going to call the roll on these items, and a yes vote would place the item on the ballot for the voters to decide, and a no vote would not place it on the ballot. All right, Madam Clerk.
Calling the roll, Mr. Brady.
No.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
No.
Mr. Schron.
Yes.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Jones.
No.
Mr. Hairston.
No.
Ms. Simon.
No.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
No.
Ms. Conley.
No.
Motion fails by a vote of 3 to 8.
Okay, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0162, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 12, Section 12.09 of the Charter of Cuyahoga County, accelerating the timeline for the appointment process and commencement of the term of the Charter Review Commission for the year in which the appointment is made, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Germana. I believe that Mr. Miller wanted to speak on this.
Madam President and my colleagues, this amendment modifies the appointment process for the Charter Review Commission to provide sufficient time for council review of the executive's appointments. This amendment originated within the Charter Review Commission and has their solid support. We may not do amendments next year due to ballot cost consideration, so this amendment is timely to put on the ballot now. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this item? So this would expend the time for appointing the Charter Commission. It gives it 2 months, is that right?
Actually, 3.
3, okay.
3.
So the Charter Commission would be appointed, let's see, what date is it? I think I picked the date, I should remember. June 1st, right? And they would start their work in September. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Brady.
No.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Schron.
Yes.
Ms. Conwell.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Hairston.
Yes.
Ms. Simon. Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Conley.
Yes.
Motion carries 10 to 1.
All right. That item will go on the ballot. Item 4.
Resolution number 2014-0163, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment enacting an article of the Charter of Cuyahoga County establishing the agency of Inspector General in the Charter and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Miller. Now, the original item is on page 62, and I understand there's a proposed substitute in your package on page 65. Mr. Greenspan, do you want to be heard on this?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. The proposed substitute on page 65, as instructed by the President, provides clarity to the qualifications section of the original and before us resolution. The qualifications, as the proposed substitute states, clarifies the discussion we had in our last meeting regarding the qualifications as being cumulative or individually stated, and it also makes one further amendment in reducing the term or the tenure of years of experience from 10 years to 5 years in those disciplines. So I'll make a motion to propose the substitute as the moving legislation.
Second?
All right, moved by Mr. Greenspan. I think I heard Mr. Schron first, seconded by Mr. Schron. Now, is there any discussion on the substitute? Okay, no discussion on the substitute? All right, all those in favor of the substitute indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it, so the substitute replaces the original item. So let's go forward on the substitute on the merits. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Thank you. As one who authored this original ordinance with the support of my committee and council in passing this, this codifies the original ordinance itself. This does not, well, let me tell you what this does. What this does, it basically outlines the powers and duties, the qualifications, which we just amended. The appointment and the term shall be consistent with that of the sheriff that we previously just discussed. 4 years starting 1 year after the term of the executive. The removal shall be the same as the sheriff by the executive and 6 members of council, and discusses some vacancy provisions as well. This is in my mind, and if we go back to the days when we met for the first time at Cleveland State, and I was told to stop talking about the Inspector General because I kept talking about it excessively, I do believe this is an important part not only of our county government, but is an integral part of governments, and specifically county governments, germane to this discussion, on a going forward basis. I'd like us to be perceived as the role model county in the state when it comes to inspectors general. What this does not do, to be clear, it leaves the duties and responsibilities to that by ordinance, as well as the funding, which are 2 key fundamental issues of being independent. However, in the absence of that, this advances the interest. It makes this position on the same level playing ground as the sheriff and other charter member agencies itself, or other charter positions, and creates this agency as a codified component of our charter. To me, it's a value-based decision on ethics and transparency, and I urge my colleagues for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan. Anyone else? Mr. Schron?
I will be supporting it on the basis that I believe that the independence of the Inspector General is something this, I think this community has been looking for, to make sure we have that extra check and balance in place. And it does get codified forever in a permanent record. I know the county executive, the county council members who brought it forth have been talking this up, but also I'd like to talk it up from the standpoint of having spent time in the United States Army, and I know that the Inspector General was truly one of those independent offices that gained the anxiety level if somebody was doing an inspection to get your attention. And we just want to make sure that it keeps that independence, and by codifying it, I think we raise it to that next level. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will be voting no on this item, and I've expressed my opinion many times. The Inspector General for the state of Ohio is not in the Ohio Constitution. I am in full support of the office of the Inspector General, but I want a clear definition of the expansions of powers. I believe that there are unintended consequences. This is $1 million a year budget item. I just think that we need to work on the details before we place it into our charter, so I'll be voting no. Mr. Miller?
I'll defer to Councilman Gallagher.
Madam Chair, thank you. I, too, am not in support of placing the Inspector General up for a vote of the people just yet. I always looked at this with a bit of a cocked eye because I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was going to be. And I don't think anybody up here really can say what it is, or what it's going to be, or what it's trying to be. But I do know this. Just recently, we've been informed that the Inspector General requested, and somebody somewhere, without notifying council, got access to all the video cameras, live feeds in the garages and county buildings. This is a perfect example of when this first came about, I said this could turn into a Frankenstein's monster. And this is
a very disturbing grab when you have an independent individual, not security related, taking over your security cameras for what purpose, I don't know, and has not been explained to this council. And we're gonna memorialize this position without parameters. And what are we supposed to do? Allow these power grabs to continue? Then we have the most powerful person in the county as an inspector general, untouchable by anyone. I'd love to know the purpose, and I don't know, and I should know, and the people should know what the purpose of having live feeds from the county buildings the inspector general is going to do with. Are now the employees, and oh, by the way, employees, you're now being viewed live by the inspector general. I don't believe that was ever to be part of what the inspector general was supposed to be. You now have an investigative authority individual in the inspector general watching the employees, our guests, our parking garages, our county buildings, and the comings and goings of everybody, maybe seeing something wrong or perceiving something to be wrong, filing charges against that individual and doing her own inspections of her own charge. She is the complainant all of a sudden, she is the judge, jury, and she will be the executioner soon. This is a step in the wrong direction. This needs to be clarified as of the authorities of the inspector general. This is a move outside the boundaries of any social situation I can think of. You know, we all got upset with the NSA. They're looking at our emails, but they weren't looking at our emails. They're listening to our phone calls, but they weren't listening to our phone calls. This is Big Brother. It's here again in Cuyahoga County, and it's unnecessary. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out who's affording the authority of our security to the Inspector General, and the purposes of this. To memorialize this at this point in time is wrong, is dangerous to moving forward in this county. The people that come into our buildings have a sense of security, and that should be with the sheriff, not the inspector general. And what else is going on in that office that this panel doesn't know about? No one in this room can answer that because she's independent, and to find out that this is going on, I am very concerned that other things are going on, and I can't answer what they may be. But no one here can give me any sense of calming feeling that everything's on the up and up there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the reason and the rationale to take over the security cameras, to have live feeds. It makes no sense. And if you vote for this, you're going down a very, very dark path.
Madam President.
Mr. Miller?
And my colleagues, I jointly sponsored this amendment because honesty and integrity in government is so fundamental to what our county charter is all about. And I commend Councilman Greenspan for his leadership on this issue. Being on guard against waste, fraud, and abuse is right all the time, not just when corruption is fresh in our minds. With corruption still fresh in our mind, now is the time to provide permanent safeguards. This amendment assures that having an inspector general to deal with ethical lapses will be a permanent part of our county government. This amendment has been well vetted. This version is the result of careful thought and refinement by both the Charter Review Commission and the Council over 2 years. It is the best version we've seen, and it is ready to go to the voters. It has the unanimous support of the Charter Review Commission. Like a good charter provision, it covers only the structural basics: role as Chief Ethics Officer, appointment and term, qualifications, removal, and vacancy. The operational details and budget are left to the Executive and Council. This version has the essentials without putting operational details in the charter that are better left to the executive, to the legislative process. I share the concern about the security cameras and other operational issues. But this amendment in no way deters our ability to deal with those issues. The operational and budgetary matters are left to the legislative process. If we were to let a concern like that stand in the way of putting a long-term structural protection in place for the benefit of Cuyahoga County government to protect against waste, fraud, and abuse, we would be making a big mistake. The voters in our district remember the bad old days of the last decade. They strongly desire the opportunity to vote on making the Inspector General a permanent part of county government. They need the support of 8 of us to have that chance. Before you vote, ask yourself, do you think the voters of my district would want a chance to vote on this amendment? I believe that they do, and it's the right thing to do to give them that chance, and I ask for your support.
I appreciate your concern, Mr. Miller, but I'd just like to say in rebuttal that the charter provides that the Inspector General is the chief ethics officer, and that's what her charge does. She's an investigatory agency, and her job is that if someone makes a complaint, then she investigates that, and if she needs tape from the Sheriff's Department, which is a security agent, then she gets that. But I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Gallagher that the Inspector General should not be looking at a camera all day and who's coming and going. It's clear that everyone in this council supports the Inspector General. No one is here to end the Inspector General. We can do this in 2 years. And as I have said to this council, a number of times, there's a whole body of legal, historical research about unintended consequences of constitutional amendments. And we are going down a very bad path if we pass this right now without clear definitions of the Inspector General. So I continue to say, with all due respect to Mr. Miller's passion and what the citizens can do, we are not ending the Inspector General, but I will not vote to put this on the charter until it's more clearly defined. Mrs. Simon?
Madam President, I'll be brief. I share the concerns of all my colleagues collectively, and I think what we have before us is a balanced approach. As I'm comfortable, first of all, I think we need an Inspector General in an office, but this legislation gives the council the ability to define and actually grant powers and duties. We have a removal now with the amendment that was supported. We can remove now with 6 votes instead of 8. And lastly, and more importantly, obviously, we have the control of the purse strings. So I think with those provisions in place and the amendment that has been passed, I'm comfortable with the balance, but I too share the concerns of Madam President and Mr. Gallagher, colleague Gallagher, that if in fact we find this is happening, then the council should have a hearing and find out exactly what's going on with regard to any live stream and watchdog activities from that office. But we ultimately have the say on what this office will look like.
All right. Mr. Germano?
Madam Chair, we passed a strong ethics ordinance. The Inspector General puts teeth to this ordinance. We make the rules, and the Inspector General follows up, and this is the safety net. I always looked at it in view of 60 different elected officials and contractors that got convicted, charges brought. Where were the whistleblowers? I mean, there was a lot of activity going, and really, the climate or the culture was you wouldn't dare blow a whistle on some of these things that were going on because your career would be ruined. And one of the great protections of the Inspector General is the fact of having absolute guarantee that you're not putting your livelihood on for blowing a whistle. Now, I'm sympathetic to what Councilman Gallagher brings up, and I understand, Madam President, your concerns, but we're making the rules I think these things could be worked out. I think sending the message to the people of Cuyahoga County that we made the rules and we're putting in a safeguard to make sure these rules are followed. And we have the control of putting some of these the rules into place. So I'm absolutely convinced that we should vote yes.
All right, anyone else want to be heard? Mr. Hairston?
Sure, thank you. First and foremost, I do support the Office of the Inspector General, but I cannot, in good faith, vote yes on this ordinance to send it to the people and put on the ballot for them to vote on. If there's so many unanswered questions that this body have, how do we send it to the people to make that decision? We have to get the questions answered amongst us first before we send this out for other people to be to vote on, for them to have a clear understanding of what it is that they're voting on. For that point, I'll be voting no. I believe we still have time to work through this. We have time, just like we tabled the residence requirement. We can table this as well to get all of the unanswered questions, because there are some things going on with the Inspector General that a lot of us don't approve of. And I'm sure there'll be things in the future that we don't approve of. So if we work those things out now, give ourselves a little more time to get this right. A lot of us say we're comfortable. We still have unanswered questions. I ask all my colleagues to support us on tabling this charter amendment until the next meeting, at least, if there are still unanswered questions.
I think we should just vote it up or down. We're just going to vote it up or down. And if we have an opportunity to introduce again, I mean, as we've said before, you can go on the ballot, another time. We're not going to change the Inspector General, but it can go on the ballot another time. So I think everybody should just vote their conscience today. Any other comments or questions?
Madam President.
Mr. Jones?
And I support the Office of the Inspector General as well. This office is in place for the employees of this county and the residents of this county to be able to in confidence, share concerns and issues that are going on within county government. And this is for those employees. And the idea, whether these allegations are true or not, the idea that the very employees who should be filing complaints, sharing concerns about county government could be watched in a proactive way, when she should simply be responding to complaints as opposed to initiating complaints on her own, on the department's own. That's an issue. I certainly support the office. From an operational standpoint, in my committee, we brought debarment. So that's a powerful tool brought to the office, not only to help employees, but specifically to help contractors outside of county government who have issues within their industry. And this is a powerful tool for the Inspector General. So these operational targets and these issues, these things I do support. But we should be putting forward before the people to concrete for posterity. We should be putting something that does not have issues, whether they're operational or whether they're not. And I will be voting no for this amendment as well, although in time it may be something that I would support once we have teased out all of the issues and worked out all the kinks, so to speak. But I will not be voting for this amendment.
Okay, anything else? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll on resolution number 2014-0163 as substituted. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana? Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Hairston?
No.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
We need 8 votes?
The motion passed 6-5. However, you needed 8 votes for it to go to the ballot.
All right, so we do not have the 8th vote for it to go to the ballot. All right, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0165, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 11, Section 11.01 of the Charter of Cuyahoga County, changing the composition of the County Audit Committee to ensure independence of judgment of all members and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Greenspan and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Do you want to be heard, Mr. Greenspan?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the Audit Committee, as we've seen, is an appointed body. That the non-appointed, non-council and county employees are appointed by council. The Internal Audit Committee is a committee, or the Audit Committee is a committee that provides oversight to the internal operations of the county. As the Audit Committee structure is currently set up by the charter, the committee members consist of the fiscal officer, who shall serve as the chair, the county executive, and the council president, and 2 residents of the county appointed by the executive, appointed, confirmed. The problem here is that this committee itself is designed to provide oversight into the internal operations of the county, yet the fiscal officer, who is chair, and the executive, who is the CEO of the county, serve as members of this committee, which is in some ways in direct conflict with the independence of providing the oversight function as it relates to the Audit Committee. This amendment is very simple in its proposal. It removes the fiscal officer and it removes the executive. It places in one of the positions a member of council appointed by the president of council, and 3 residents of the county appointed by the executive and confirmed by council. And their terms are listed in the proposal. So effectively what we're doing is removing any perceived conflict of interest between internal operations and those who provide oversight into those operations. And I urge my colleagues for their support.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, you call the roll.
Calling the roll on Resolution 2014-0165. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
No.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Conley? Motion carries 10 to 1.
Go on the ballot. And next item.
Resolution number 2014-0166, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.04 of the Charter of Cuyahoga County to provide for the holding of special elections to fill vacancies in the office of the county executive and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam President?
Move to adopt.
Yes, move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Schron.
Yes, this whole resolution started with a different vein in which I submitted a request for the suggestion of being nonpartisan. It was since amended, removing that language and now focusing on the succession of the county executive in the event that something should happen due to incapacity in any way, shape, or form of the county executive. It calls for a special election to be held within 100 days of that vacancy taking place. What this does is it actually brings it to the voters to make the decision as to who would be the next county executive should a vacancy occur. Currently, in the way the charter is written, it is the county council president who moves up. The county council president then takes over that slot, but is prohibited from moving back, so they would then also give up their slot as county council president under the way it's currently written. The amendment allows the county council president to go up and hold that slot for the 100 days while that special election is taking place and returns. The special election rules and procedures would be set up by the Board of Elections like they do with any special election as far as being brought forward. I just might remind everybody that 100 days is probably more than what the average length of time that the entire country of England does when they hold their prime minister race. So I think that we would have clearly enough time to vent the 100 days, and combined with the fact that this actually allows the voters to determine who should be that executive, I think is in the proper control of where this needs to be. So that's my motion and as amended.
All right, comments? Mr. Greenspan?
Yeah, Madam President, thank you. I support this charter amendment. One thing that Mr. Schron mentioned but needs further clarification or exemplification is that if the council president currently cannot choose not to serve as the executive if there's a vacancy. If the only way the council president cannot serve as president is that council president would have to resign from council. There is not the option. It is a shall, not a must, become the executive. So there needs to be some clarity here. I don't believe the intention of the original charter crafters was to provide that limitation on the council president. So I support this and urge my colleagues to support it as well.
Madam Chairperson.
Mr. Brady?
This has been a moving target, this particular proposal by Councilman Schron. I think that he is on to something important in terms of the charter not having originally defined the process upon the vacancy of a county executive, and that he's almost got the solution pinned down, but there are a lot of questions involved in something this big, and I would like to see us have further discussion about this as we did with the residency requirement resolution, if the council has an interest in that.
And Madam President, I am comfortable with holding this over as we did, withdrawing my motion and the second if it would, for the 2 weeks. But I really urge that we seriously figure out a succession that makes sense. 100 days is certainly well within the scope of that, and we use these 2 weeks. If I had urged that 2 weeks ago to bring it forth, I think it is clearly something that is doable to have 100 days out there. I did talk with in the intervening time with Marty Zanani, who was actually involved in the original charter. He and if we wanted to bring him forth, he would say that it was an element that they did miss in the succession, that they wish that they would have addressed that. And so I'm just urging us to use these 2 weeks to help address that.
Mr. Schrein, you're going to withdraw and...
I'll withdraw
Ms.
the
Cotterill?
motion.
Okay, so we'll pass it over to the 26th to give us an opportunity to further discuss this one. All right. Okay, so we will have on the ballot, as of right now, the item 1. Is that right?
Item number 1 is held.
1, 3, and 5, okay.
No, just 3 and 5.
3, okay. All right, yeah, that's 3 and 5, okay. All right, let's move on to B, consideration of ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0022, an ordinance enacting the County Executive Transition Act and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This matter will go to council operations, but I understand that Mr. Brady wants to speak on this item.
That's just briefly. I know this isn't the time when we have debates or discussion, when we just send a resolution to committee, but I wanted to clarify, what I have in mind. It's not hard to understand. 4 years ago, the commissioner set aside funds for the county executive-elect at that time to begin to be able to bring some people on staff for a couple of months and have a place to work and be able to start that process of transition. We don't have anything like that in place right now. I think it's important that we do. I'm not wedded to a particular approach. The language is suggested language, but I do think that having a transparent and formal approach to transition is something that we can do and that we should do. And so I look forward to that discussion in Councilman Greenspan's committee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brady. So we'll see that at council operations. Next item.
Ordinance number 2014-0023, an ordinance amending Chapter 202 of the Cuyahoga County Code by adding Section 202.18 to establish a Department of Sustainability and to provide for the powers and duties of the Director of Sustainability.
This matter will go to Environment, Education, and Sustainability, Ms. Simons Committee.
Madam President, can I just say
Yes,
something
sure.
brief about this? I'm really excited to bring this forward, particularly at this time when we did see the bloom on the lake and in concert with what we'll be facing with future issues on conservation and clean water and clean air. But specifically, this department would be unique in that it would create, help create markets of advanced and renewable energies, promote energy efficiencies both at the county level and throughout municipalities and assist our residents with those issues, invest in climate solutions throughout the county and local governments, and really build a new green economy. I think this is exciting. I think it's timely, and it's extremely important to move our county forward into new ways to do business. And so I'm excited to talk about this in committee.
All right, thank you. And you'll be heard in your committee. Next item.
Ordinance number 2014-0024, an ordinance setting the fee structure for Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter dog adoptions and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
And this will go to Ms. Simons Committee also. And how are they set now? They're just set by the shelter?
Yes, and this gives some flexibility.
Okay, all right. So we'll hear it in that committee. All right, item 10, legislation introduced by the executive. Consideration of resolution for first reading, adoption, or suspension of the rules. We need a motion to suspend Rule 9D and 12A.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
By Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Jabana to suspend the rules. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0187, a resolution approving a proposed settlement and consent judgment in connection with Limpany et al. Versus Cuyahoga County et al., United States District Court case number 1:12CV2318, authorizing the law director and/or his designee to execute any supporting documentation, authorizing the appropriation of funds for payment of settlement amounts set forth herein, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Somebody needs to move to adopt? Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Jabana. Does somebody in the law department want to be heard on this briefly? No, this is a different one.
To this matter?
No, this is not the same one. Okay. No, anybody have specific questions? Okay, all right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0188, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Do you want to be heard, Mr. Miller?
Yes, Madam President, my colleagues, this resolution is mainly routine, but has three significant items. First, it appropriates $2,256,000 for workforce development programs, with most of the money coming from the U.S. Department of Labor and also some TANF funding. Also, there are two items that were amended out of the last fiscal resolution and referred to finance and budget, and were discussed at the last meeting. And those are $4.3 million for the call manager upgrade. This system provides some upgrades, but most important, it updates an outdated system that will no longer receive technical support. And second, there's $3.15 million for roof repairs for the Hunter Building and the men's shelter. I ask for your support.
You any questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0189, a resolution proclaiming the month of August 2014 as Child Support Awareness Month in Cuyahoga County. Support is key, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Jimana. And once again, thank you, Mr. Sharaba, for making his presentation. I think we had a pretty clear explanation. So all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And we strongly support Child Support Awareness Month.
Resolution number 2014-0190, resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement between Cuyahoga County and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Ohio Council 8, Local 1746, AFL-CIO, representing approximately 1,158 employees in various classifications in the Departments of Health and Human Services and Public Works for the period July 1, 2014 through June 30, 2017, directing that funds necessary to implement the collective bargaining agreement be budgeted and appropriated, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Ms. Conwell. We had an opportunity to get the details of this matter in executive session. This agreement is consistent with what we've done with other employees across the board. And I don't know if there's anything else the administration, and it is recommended by the administration. Is there anything else the administration would like to say? Okay, all those in favor of adoption indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, this is the large, this is like currently one of the largest unions that we have a contract with 1,150 workers. So it impacts a lot of employees. Okay, item B, consideration of resolution for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2014-0191, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30137 to Bray Whaler International in the amount not to exceed $308,000 to arrange for the purchase, delivery, and installation of certain furnishings, fixtures, operating supplies, and equipment for use in the operation of the hotel, authorizing Bray Whaler International to act as the county's agent to purchase FF&E in the amount not to exceed $25 million for use in the operation of the hotel, authorizing the county executive to take all necessary actions and to execute all documents necessary to consummate the contemplated transactions, authorizing the Director of Public Works to administer the project, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Because this matter affects the hotel, which the council has been being very concerned about, and the amount of money, we're going to refer this to a committee of the whole. We'll start a meeting with the clerk to determine when the committee of the whole will be.
Resolution number 2014-0192, a resolution amending the boundaries of County Sewer District number 17 to add the remaining municipal boundaries of the City of Cleveland Heights in accordance with Ohio Revised Code sections 6117.01 and 6117.03, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I'll go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0193, a resolution fixing the 2015 sewer maintenance and/or sewerage treatment rates for County Sewer District numbers 1A, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 13, 14, 18, 20, 21, 22, and 24, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 6117.02, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Public Works. Get your working shoes on, Mr. Jones. You got a lot coming here.
Resolution number 2014-0194, a resolution approving and confirming the 2015 sewer maintenance and/or sewerage treatment assessments for County Sewer District numbers 1A, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 13, 14, 18, 20, 21, 22, and 24, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 6117.02, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This goes to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0195, a resolution declaring that public convenience and welfare requires replacement of Lewis Road Culvert number 13 in Olmsted Township. Total estimated project cost, $582,000. Finding that special assessments will neither be levied nor collected to pay for any part of the county's costs of said improvement, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0196, a resolution authorizing the appropriation of real property in connection with right-of-way plans as set forth in plat number M5012 for the grade separation of Stearns Road at the Norfolk Southern Railroad in Olmsted Township, directing the county executive to proceed with the acquisition of real property required for public highway purposes, authorizing the fiscal officer to issue the monetary warrant to be deposited with the probate court of Cuyahoga County in an amount that is equal to the fair market value of the property, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the parcels, the owners, and the approved appraisal fair market value estimates as printed on the agenda for item number 6.
Now we'll go to Public Works. Item 7.
Resolution number 2014-0197, a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 0800631 with Michael Baker Jr. Incorporated for consultant engineering services for construction of Stage 3 of the Towpath Trail extension from Steelyard Commons to Tremont Trailhead for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $2,044,567, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This goes to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0198, a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 1100-721 with American Bridge Company for rehabilitation of Columbus Road Lift Bridge over the Cuyahoga River in the city of Cleveland for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $714,577.66. Authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution. Authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $5 license tax funds in the amount of $71,457.77 to fund said amendment, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This goes to Public Works.
Resolution number 2014-0199, a resolution amending resolution number 2013-0201, dated September 24, 2013, which authorized an award to Woods Cove III LLC as purchaser and Lien Servicing LLC as servicer for the sale of tax lien certificates by removing the amount not to exceed $25 million. Authorizing the county executive to execute all documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This goes to Finance and Budget.
Resolution number 2014-0200, a resolution establishing a list of certified providers for occupational skills training services for the individual training account system for the period July 1, 2014 through June 30, 2016, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreements and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for all the providers as listed on the agenda for item number 10.
This goes to Education, Environment, and Sustainability.
Resolution number 2014-0201, a resolution authorizing amendments to various agreements with Cleveland Municipal School District for universal pre-kindergarten services for the Invest in Children program for the period August 22, 2012 through July 31, 2014, to extend the time period to July 31, 2015, to change the terms effective August 1, 2014, and for additional funds. Authorizing the county executive to execute the amendments and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the agreements of the providers and in the amounts not to exceed as printed on the agenda for item number 11.
This goes to Education, Environment, and Sustainability.
Resolution number 2014-0202, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Cleveland Municipal School District, Franklin D. Roosevelt Elementary School, in the amount not to exceed $35,884.80 for universal pre-kindergarten services for the Invest in Children program for the period August 1, 2014 through July 31, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Goes to Education, Environment, Sustainability.
And finally, resolution number 2014-0203, a resolution authorizing an amendment to master contract number CE 1300-268 for residential treatment services for the period February 1, 2013 through January 31, 2015, to change the total amount not to exceed from $3,850,000 to $6,950,000, to authorize funding decreases and/or increases with various previously approved providers, and to terminate contract number CE 1300-268-05 with Catholic Charities Corporation, doing business as Parmadale, effective March 1, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go to Public Safety Justice Affairs. All right, moving on to item C, committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading adoption under suspension. These matters have been to committee, and we need a motion to suspend Rule 9D to waive the third reading.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule.
Second.
By Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germana to suspend the rules. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rule is suspended. First item.
Resolution number 2014-0176, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $4,300,000 for voice over Internet Protocol Provider Services for the period July 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Okay, Miller moves and Sharon seconds. I think Mr. Miller wants to be heard on. This is the item we pulled off the agenda.
Yes, Madam President and my colleagues, this is the contract for the same item that we approved in the fiscal resolution. So the fiscal resolution provided the money for it, and this provides the contract to execute it. I ask for approval.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0177, a resolution authorizing a revenue-generating agreement with City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $875,000 for operation of the Family Justice Center for the period June 1, 2014 through May 31, 2019, in connection with a lease for space located at 75 Erie View Plaza, Cleveland, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Germana. Mr. Gallagher.
Madam President, this was heard in committee, and we thank our friends at the juvenile court for their support in letting us move into this building, so to hold off on this an extra 2 weeks. But because of the sensitive nature of what is done, the work done in the Family Justice Center, it was necessary to move it away from the Justice Center itself in the Juvenile Justice Center. So therefore, 75 Erie Plaza was chosen. This is revenue generating for us, and it's an agreement with the City of Cleveland as it states. And the committee would request that all of council support this resolution.
All right, any questions?
Add my name, please.
Add Ms. Conwell's name. You can add my name also.
Add my name.
Mr. Germana
Add mine as well.
and Mr. Jones.
What the heck? Add mine also.
Kirsten? Okay. 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 All those in favor indicate, well, I think she's still writing. You okay? Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. This should be named the Judge Ronald B. Adrian Family Justice Center, because I know he's been working on this for years and years, forever. even when I was still on the bench with him. So it's been going on since like 2000 or something.
Yeah, Madam President, I think Janet Cronenberg actually had a lot to,
Oh, okay.
of some of this vision too, and
Okay.
she would be really proud, I
Yeah,
think,
no,
to
she
have
worked,
this.
she worked very closely with Judge Agee
Yeah.
on it, so, okay. All right, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0178, a resolution authorizing amendments to contracts with various providers for various services and time periods, to extend the time periods to June 30, 2015, and for additional funds, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendments and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the contract numbers, providers, time periods, and in the amounts not to exceed, as printed on the agenda for item number 3.
To adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Did you want to be heard, Mr. Gallagher?
Thank you, Madam President. Again, we appreciate the juvenile court administration and judges allowing us to kick this a couple weeks. It's a very important item. Instead of throwing some of these juveniles into jail and then treating them, this is a way in which we can keep kids out of jail and treatment going in a more of a home setting. It works. It's been documented to work, and I think support of this from the entire committee would request that the resolution be supported by the full council.
All right, any questions of this? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. And D, consideration of resolution for third reading adoption. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0141, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga, an amendment to add an article to the Cuyahoga County Charter to provide that the right to vote is a fundamental right in the county, and authorize the county to take action to protect and promote the right to vote, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon and seconded by Mr. Hairston. Did you want to be heard, Ms. Simon?
Sure. Madam President, I'm not going to reiterate the discussions we've had over the past 2 months about why this is vitally important to have in our charter. This, too, is a value-based charter amendment, which actually makes sure that our voters in our county, their right to vote, their having access to voting is protected, promoted, and voting and declaring it as a fundamental right. Not only that, but more importantly, it has the teeth, it has a mechanism to make sure that we will always, as a home rule county, be able to have sovereignty over how our residents are able to vote in terms of early voting and all other forms of voting. So I really encourage my colleagues to support this as a really important statement and tool for access to the ballot.
All right, any other comments, Mr. Schran?
Yes, just as I think one or two of my colleagues commented on other items to go before the ballot, it was suggested that they would not go on. It was inappropriate because our Constitution doesn't provide for those elements to be consistent. I would ask that my colleagues who chose to vote that way would also be consistent in this way. Clearly, we've had lawsuits, we've brought actions, we've taken steps, and we have not gone through and changed our core document. And so I would ask them to be consistent with not changing our core document in this component.
All right, any other comments? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Calling the roll on resolution number 2014-0141. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schran?
No.
Ms. Conwell? Yes. Mr. Jones? Yes. Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Conley? Motion carries 8-3.
Okay, we'll go on the ballot. All right, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0175, a resolution making an award on requisition number 28400 to Pro Tech Systems Group Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1 million for maintenance, upgrades, and support services for the supervisory control and data acquisition system for the period August 1, 2014 through July 31, 2019, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Shrine, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion on this item? This is coming up Public Works. Okay, if there's no discussion, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, moving right along. Item E, committee reports and consideration of resolution for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2013-0170, a resolution making an award on requisition number 24534 to Halley Industrial Park LLC in the amount of $10,069,268.64 for lease of space for the period anticipated to be June 1, 2014 through June 30, 2024. Authorizing the county executive to take all necessary actions and to execute all documents necessary to consummate the contemplated transactions, and authorizing the Director of Public Works to administer the project, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Somebody want to move?
to adopt.
All right, moved by Mr. Shrine and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion on this item?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we have the substitute here.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is a substitute. Let's, I do have a substitute. Okay, who's proposing the substitute? Or we are?
Yes, we're proposing a proposed substitute to just move some of the dates back. Some of the dates had us moving into the building this year. We won't move into the building until March 1. And then also, we're going to take an additional 15,000 square feet of the building, so we do have to pay a little bit more than that. It's about $5,000 a month.
Why are we taking the additional space?
The Public Works needs that additional space for the, I believe, the print shop. Sorry. That's the, and she'll say more eloquently than I could.
Thank you. Bonnie Tewan, Director of Public Works. As we reviewed the process and the space that we were proposing in the Halley warehouse, we recognize the need for some additional space, some additional dock space and square footage to incorporate our print shop, which is currently located at 1642 Lakeside, to really look at comprehensively how our processing center works. We felt it was necessary to put our print shop adjacent to the Board of Elections, because they are our biggest customers for the print shop, so it just made sense. So rather than accept the lease as we initially proposed, we thought and then come back at a later time in a month or so to to take advantage of the option, I thought it would be best just to do it all at once right now and include it that way.
I move we replace with the substitute language, which includes the print shop necessary for the rental space.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Shrine and seconded by Mr. Demana to substitute the amended version. So any other questions on the amended version? All right, so all those in favor of the amendment or the proposed substitute indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll go forward then. The ayes have it. We'll go forward with the proposed substitute. As to this lease arrangement, we've been living with this for a very, very long time, and I'm not all this crazy about the location and the facility, but I think that there's been a lot of bids out there and a lot of discussion, and I'm prepared to vote for it. I will say that I am preparing legislation to create an advisory committee for the archives. I just think it's so important that we maintain, the history of our county. And so I'll be introducing legislation within the next few weeks or so to have an advisory committee made up of some historians or local people that have an interest in maintaining our history, to be an advisory board to assist Public Works in looking at our records. So, but I am prepared to vote for this evening. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I had one question for Director Tewan. Since the
We
print-
told you to sit in the front.
Since the print shop is being moved into the Halley building, are we saving on any cost from where the print shop is being moved from? Or are we still utilizing that building for other space?
We will still utilize that building. 1642 Lakeside is currently where the majority of our trades are housed. The print shop is on the first floor of that. What will happen is when the print shop moves out, it will open up more space for our trades so that they can actually have working shops within that. So it will still keep the building, and we still have a need for the building. But
We own that building, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any questions, any other questions on the resolution as amended? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We finally have an archives, a new archive location. Okay, F, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0025, an ordinance enacting Chapter 718 of the Cuyahoga County Code to enact the Cuyahoga County Financial Transaction Modernization Act, governing the use of financial transaction devices by county entities for payment of county expenses, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
So go to finance and budget. Item G, consideration of ordinance for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0019, an ordinance enacting Chapter 716 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish procedures for setting the fee structure for Sheriff's Department background check services, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Jemana and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Jemana, would you want to be heard?
Well, it speaks for itself. This gives the Sheriff's Department the ability to change the fee structure as needed.
Yeah, you heard this in Public Works as your chair, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay, any questions on this? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next item.
Ordinance number 2014-0020, an ordinance enacting Chapter 717 of the Cuyahoga County Code to authorize extension of the capital improvement bed tax and to authorize the use of said proceeds in accordance with agreement with the mayor of the city of Cleveland and Positively Cleveland, as approved by a majority of local mayors, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Now, there is an amendment, proposed substitute rather, at your place. Yes.
I move that we substitute the attached revised language for the existing piece of legislation.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schrein, seconded by Mr. Miller. Somebody want to give us just a quick details? What's the amendment contain? It's just these technical corrections? Mr. Butler?
Yeah, this is a very technical correction. When Positively Cleveland and others were getting the agreement of the local mayors to approve the extension of the bed tax, the mayor suggested, and Positively Cleveland was happy to do this, the mayor suggested that Positively Cleveland update the Cuyahoga County Mayors and Managers Association annually. And Positively Cleveland was more than happy to do that, so we just made that correction in the ordinance you have before you. And the update also is that 49 of the 57 mayors have approved the agreement, and of course the mayor of Cleveland also signed on, and so did Positively Cleveland. And we have not gotten any opposition from anybody, any of the other mayors who we did not get approval from.
So this continues the current bed tax and basically just continues the ordinance as it had previously been enacted, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions?
Just one question. Where, in particular, is this the update of the substitute change?
Because usually it's underlined when we put in a.
I don't see it.
It's on the third page, that top paragraph,
Okay.
it says Positively Cleveland shall annually update, and list some people, and we added the Cuyahoga County Mayors and Managers Association right there.
I see. Okay, good. I support this. I'm satisfied that the majority of the mayors are in favor and that we have this additional language about getting an update and being in the loop.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. This is probably one of the most far-reaching legislation because this sets something in stone for 40 years.
Most of us are going to be dead.
Right. Not me, my mother's 101, so. Okay, miscellaneous committee reports.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, you voted on the accepting the proposed substitute, so we still have the motion for the legislation as substituted.
Okay, so we need to withdraw the original?
No, Madam Chair, you just need to vote
Okay.
on it as
Okay.
substituted.
Okay, so we want to move on the.
On the merits.
On the merits, okay, so so moved?
Second.
Second? Okay, so I lost my hurrah here. Let's vote on the proposed substitute on the merits. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Now we have a bed tax, okay. All right, miscellaneous committee reports.
Madam
Any-
President.
Yes, Mr. Greenspan?
Thank you. My committee will meet on August 25th at 9 a.m., which is a Monday morning. We will be discussing the transition ordinance that Mr. Brady has sponsored. We also will be receiving an update from the Inspector General on the semi-annual report, which has been published, and I will ask the clerk to circulate it to council members and ask my committee members to review it. We can also ask questions, as was expressed regarding the explanation as to the review of streaming video. I'm sure the IG is watching right now on either the streaming video or on the closed circuit, so she will have access to what our questions are. And we will also be discussing and having an update from Director Schofield on regional collaboration.
Anyone else? Mr. Miller?
Yes, Finance and Budget will meet on Monday, August the 18th at 1 p.m., which is our regular committee time.
Mr. Brady, anybody else? Ms. Simon?
Mr.
Oh,
Madam Chair,
so you dodged the bullet for a couple weeks here.
I did for a couple of weeks, and now it's, the committee is filled up today. So we're going to meet this Thursday. I was actually considering, should we meet a little earlier considering the length of the agenda? Or is Health and Human Service not meeting?
He didn't get any.
Not be meeting.
Not meet. So we will maintain our regular time at 11 o'clock, but a new day. In 2 days, the Public Works Committee will meet Thursday at 11 a.m. to deal with the items referred today.
Madam Chair, Human Resources Appointment and Equity Committee will meet Tuesday, August 19th at 10 a.m. regular time. We have an appointment before us as well as a presentation with an update of the pay equity consultant from Rebecca Kaminsky.
All right, anybody else? Ms. Simon?
We're going to meet on the 20th. There's a lot of things being talked about in my committee too. We'll get done as much as we can. We have workforce, we have pre-K, universal, and the sustainability issue. So,
What
and the
time
dog
is that?
license. We usually meet at 3, but I'm going to see if we can do something different with that. But at least let's get the date pegged as the 20th at 3 for now.
Okay. Any miscellaneous business?
Madam
President?
Chairperson.
I would just like to mention that I had an opportunity to see some of the figure skating competition this afternoon as part of the Gay Games, and some of the performances were truly outstanding. And I just want to thank the LGBT community for selecting Cleveland. It's an honor to host this major event and wish continued success. Thank you.
Where was that held?
This is held at the Winterhurst Skating Rink at
Lakewood? Oh, okay.
it's in my district
Oh, okay. All right, okay.
17th
Okay.
Ward of Cleveland.
All right. Anything else? Any other miscellaneous business?
Yes, Madam Chairperson, I just wanted to say that, today, earlier, we heard an executive session, and then today we passed legislation around a bargaining agreement with the largest union in the county. And it's just very, I think it's worth saying that after 3.5 years, and certainly an awful lot of bargaining units in this county, that this administration and this council has been, has what I think a fantastic record. And of course, I give compliments to the administration for its negotiating abilities, and to the unions for their cooperation. I know that a few weeks ago we had a little hiccup with one of the unions, and in one of their publications, some of us got whacked a little bit on that. But I think we should be really proud of the administration and the council's record on labor and on labor negotiations in this new government. And if I have to have a labor record, it's 99.5% positive, then I'm completely satisfied with that.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Hey, this is pretty neat. You can see people in the baseball stadium. It's not raining and the sun is shining and they're.
It's like Wrigley Field.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any public comment unrelated to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mary Ostendorf.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, but our clock is broken, so. Wait, hold on.
Piggybacking on what Mr. Miller said, I was at the Trinity Cathedral last night, and they had like the gay games religious groups, and they had people, Buddhists, rabbis, Baptists, people from California, all over. It was amazing, 3-hour ceremony for blessing the games. It was beautiful. What really brought me here, and you are politicians, you know what it's like to try to circulate a petition. The people on my street 1 week ago decided to circulate a petition to have a building demolished. We live in East Cleveland. Our police are stretched thin. We have a nice street. We want to keep it that way, but we need help with demolishing the building. I may be bringing this to the wrong people. I don't know, but we made a plan, and this is step one of the plan, to just bring this to your attention. I brought it down yesterday and gave it to Khalil Seren, so I think it's in your computer system, and that's why I'm here, just to ask for 1818 Page Avenue, demolition of a building that's really causing problems. Even I have to run when I go by it on my way home tonight. That's it. You want the picture?
Thank you. We'll check with Mr. Seren, and we'll follow up with him.
Thank you very
and refer
kindly.
it to whatever department.
And I might say, I was here in the beginning when you started, and this is a really very impressive process, and the building is beautiful, and I feel very proud. I was born and raised in Cuyahoga County, and I'm very proud of what I see here tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, anything else? All right, this concludes the first meeting of the Cuyahoga County Council in our new chambers, a very historic event. And is there a motion to adjourn? Second, all those in favor say aye, we're adjourned.